Hey everybody, it's Legal Advices here, welcoming you to episode 3 of The Last of Us spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited, one-take review, where I provide you with a spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited, one-take review of episode 2 of The Last of Us. The first 2 episodes were really good. Let's dive into this and see what we all think of episode 3. If you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe while we're doing this. But here we go. Episode 3 was titled Long, Long Time. We'll see why as we get into this. There's no flashback intro. It went straight into the Game of Thrones for Viruses intro that they have. But as soon as the credits go away, the first problem I have with this movie happens. It's not a big problem. It's just a personal problem I have with it. It's the location. Joel is soaking his broken hand in a river surrounded by rocky hill, like mountains and big pine trees. And the sign says 10 miles west of Boston. Now, no place on earth has ever looked more like the Rocky Mountains than 10 miles west of Boston in this show. 10 miles west of Boston is rolling hills, maple trees, things like that. This was the Rocky Mountains. And so I did a little bit of a check and I did see that, yes, it was filmed in Canada. So this is the Canadian Rockies. Looks nothing like 10 miles west of Boston. But as a guy who was born and raised and grew up in the Rocky Mountains, whenever I see the Rocky Mountains, I know what the Rocky Mountains look like. And they don't look like they're 10 miles west of Boston. But anyway, that was just a personal gripe. Moving right along, he's building a little cairn of stones for Tess along the side of the river. Ellie's trying to talk to him. She seems to have been mellowed out by Tess's death in the previous episode. She's just trying to talk calmly to Joel. Joel's being a dick to her. And then Ellie gets pissed and says, Joel, don't blame me for her death. She didn't force anyone to take me. She said, I didn't force you to take me. Nobody forced you to take me. You and Tess wanted to take me and give me somewhere else so that you could get a stupid battery for your stupid truck. So don't be bitter with me. Joel sort of mellows down, kind of, all right, fine. And then as they're walking along, she's okay, where are we going? He tells her, and are there lots of, we're going to go see Frank and Bill. Are there any monsters along the way? Are they infected along the way? It's not a lot. Well, then what are we looking for? So we're not looking for the infected. We're looking for people. People are the bad guys in this, essentially. Monsters, the infected, they're just kind of hanging around. It's the people that are the bad ones. So they stop at this house. They find a house along the way. They stop. It seems to be a place where Joel has stashed some stuff there a couple of years ago, but he can't seem to find it. And Ellie wanders off on her little lonesome to go check out the rest of the house. And she finds a little trap door. And then she decides to go down inside the trap door. And it looks like it's a big storage room of some sort. And she starts looking around. Then she realizes she's not alone. There's an infected trapped under some rubble in a corner. It's just kind of going like that. And she goes in for a closer look. And then things start getting a little bit weird. She goes full Jeffrey Dahmer. She starts to cut open his forehead and look at it. She sits back and takes a gander. And then she just stabs it in the forehead and kills it. Joel finally finds his stash. Ellie's excited. She found a box of tampons. Yay. And then it gets a little political. I kind of, I want to be entertained. I just want to watch things for entertainment. I don't want to be preached to. I don't want to, I play games to escape from reality. And so kind of some spidey senses went off here because she got a little bit political. She says, oh, nobody can protect us. The shitty government failed to protect us from a pandemic. Only do you wonder what that's a reference to? But mercifully, that was it. It went away. There was nothing else there to really trigger the politics side of things. So we let it slide because it does fit within the scope of the game. That's literally what happened in the game. The government failed to protect them from a pandemic. Then Joel explains how it all happened. He gives kind of a history. He says the virus just sort of essentially happened overnight. It was in wheat and other grain products, which makes sense when you go back and you watch the first episode or you think about it. The old lady, Granny, that was eating the neighbors, they were feeding her pieces of bread. Anytime bread was there, it was a danger. Ellie was going to make cookies with the neighbors, but she didn't actually eat the cookies. Joel was supposed to have pancakes for breakfast, but Ellie didn't have pancake mix. And there was a bunch of other bread-related references that I was only just now starting to realize. So everything was in the wheat, in the bread, and so it spread really quickly. And they're walking along, and Joel wants to go another way. He said, let's just go this way. Ellie's, well, why? He said, there's something there that you shouldn't see, which naturally makes Ellie want to go see it that much more. So they run off. Don't run off. They walk off to where Joel doesn't want Ellie to go. And what they find there is a massive killing field. just bones as far as the eye can see. It's just a massive, giant killing field where apparently once the quarantine zones reached capacity and couldn't take any more survivors, they just took the survivors out and killed them. They just took them out of the killing field and they just killed them because there was no room in the quarantine zones for them. And Ellie said, "Well, why did they have to kill them?" And Joel said, "Because the dead can't become infected." So they were just basically culling the living to prevent more infected from happening. Then it flashes back to September 30th, 2003. Now, there's either I wasn't paying attention, or I suck at math, or there's a problem because the flashbacks and the flash forwards and the years they give and the amount of years that have passed since the last jump forward or back didn't seem to add up to me, and I was just frankly too lazy to go back and watch it. But I assume that their continuity director did it, and I just suck at math, which is probably right. There seems to be a guy. There's a guy talking, and it's obviously Nick Offerman's voice. I'd recognize Nick Offerman's voice anywhere, but he's armed to the teeth and he's hiding from the government in a basement. And then he goes out after the government threat goes away. He goes out. He's looking for gas and supplies. And there's a great old blues song from early Fleetwood Mac. "I'm Going Home to Stay." It's a great song, and I was really, really happy to hear that in there. Haven't heard that for ages. Nick Offerman's character goes off. He builds a bunker. He plants a garden. He cures meat. He's a real survivalist, and he's doing it in style. He's eating this gorgeous dinner, and then an alarm goes off. He flips on his camera. He sees an infected down the path, and he just sits and watches it. The infected hit a tripwire, and then the shotgun just bam, shotgun trap blows the infected's head off, and Nick Offerman just like never gets old, and goes back to eating his meal. Then it flashes forward to 2007. Nick's living in his compound, and a dude has fallen into his trap, and they're questioning him. And then Nick Offerman lets him out of the trap. And at this point, when they introduce themselves, you realize that this is Frank and Bill. Frank and Bill, for those of you that don't know, in the video game, they were partners in every sense of the word, partners. But you never really met them. There was no background story. There was no history to them. Just by the time you get to them in the video game, Frank is dead. Bill is kind of somewhere out missing, and the times that you do hear about or interact with Bill, he's a cranky old bastard, and he's just and they hated each other. Bill and his partner Frank hated each other in the video game apparently, because we won't get into we won't give spoilers of upcoming spoilers. We'll just let it go through. But it was really good in this game because now you've met them when they met. So I think at this point it's great that we have a background story for two really kind of interesting characters in the video game. So Frank is the person that was in the trap, and Nick Offerman, Bill, he's the survivalist guy. So they go back, and Bill lets Frank take a shower and have dinner, and he's bringing some fresh clothes for Frank, and he hears Frank in the shower, and Bill kind of hesitates. Some vibes are going there. And then Bill serves up an amazing dinner of rabbit and wine. And Frank and he start talking about the pairings of wine that go with rabbit. And then there seems to be a little bit of a sexual tension in the air. Or is it just awkwardness of human interaction? Bill's a piano player, so Bill goes over to the piano, picks up a piano book, and it's Linda Ronstadt, and he plays Long, Long Time, which is the title of the episode. Long, Long Time. But he's not really great. So Bill takes over and starts playing the piano, playing Long, Long Time. It's a sad song. Bill kind of getting teary-eyed, and Frank standing next to him kind of gets a little teary-eyed. Definitely some sexual tension in the air between those two. And yep, at the end of the song, Frank asks, "Well, who's that girl you were singing to just now?" Bill says, "No girl." And they know. Frank reaches out to Bill's shoulder, and that's when Frank says, "I know." And then Ron Swanson makes out with a rando. There's tears. It's a bear's paradise, I guess. But don't get your panties in a wad, people. They were gay in the game, and nobody cared. And if they're gay in the game, they're keeping it real in the TV series, and it's just giving you their background. And it's a pretty interesting background. It's kind of funny. As we'll see, it plays out really, really well. But yeah, it was some definite beard on beard action there. There's some bareness going on. It was an unbearably long scene. Turns out Frank has been an incel. I asked him about his experience. He had sex with a girl once, a long time ago and never been with the guy. And that was promptly taken care of. It was a scene, it went on a little bit long for me. I mean, I don't even want to see a hetero scene go on that long. It was kind of uncomfortable. I mean, not because they were gay, it was just because I don't want to see anybody. I want to watch the movie. So it cuts over to a flash forward 3 years from that event. They're having a lover's quarrel. Frank goes storming out of the house. Bill comes after him, and they're arguing about paint and lawnmower fuel. Frank wants to paint the house and cut the grass, but Bill's like, we got a resource management. We got to work on our resources. And then they get in this big fight. All Frank wants to do, it was actually a really funny scene. All Frank wants to do is make the place look pretty and invite friends over. Bill says, look, there are no more friends. And Frank says that he was talking to a lovely woman on the ham radio, and Bill kind of freaks out. He's like, what? And then it cuts to Tess and Joel. They're out over with Bill and Frank having this little post-apocalyptic garden party, food and wine, and they form their alliance, their smuggling alliance. So again, this was something that wasn't talked about at all really in the video game. It just flashes. I mean, just nothing. And so it was kind of good to see how one of the people that Joel trusted more than anyone else in this post-apocalyptic world to get this backstory. Why did they trust him? So I thought this was a very important scene, and this whole vibe was a good change from the mayhem and madness of the first two episodes. It kind of gives you a little chill. It kind of gives you a big background on some important characters and a big background on the how the virus spread and started. And then, well, there was another little lover's quarrel later where Frank traded he traded Joel for one of Bill's guns. He gave Joel one of Bill's guns, and Joel gave him some strawberry seeds. They planted some strawberries. Bill didn't like it, but didn't kill him. And then it cuts to a thunderstorm. It's a dark night. There's raiders coming in, and as they're coming up around the house, they trigger these fire traps. There's explosions. There's bombs. There's these fuel flamethrowers that are coming out. They're getting fried on the electric fence, and there's an assault on the house, and Bill gets shot in the stomach. Everybody in the show gets shot in the stomach. Joel's daughter, Sarah, got shot in the stomach. The leader of the Fireflies, Marlene, she got shot in the stomach. And now Bill has gotten shot in the stomach. And Bill's fading fast, and he's like, Frank, just go call Joel. Joel, he'll take care of you. And then his eyes close. But then we fast forward 10 years to 2023, back to the present time-ish. Joel, and again, see, the timestamps just didn't really seem to add it, but it just could be me. I'm just bad at math. Frank's in a wheelchair. And Bill has a limp. He's okay other than limp. Apparently he survived getting shot in the stomach, but Frank's in a wheelchair. Don't know exactly what's wrong with him. He has some sort of musculature problem, whether it's like a ALS or muscular dystrophy or multiple sclerosis, whatever it is. He's got some problems with his muscles, and he's having a real problem moving around, and he's uncomfortable, and he doesn't like it. And then at one point he just tells Frank, "This is my last day." He's going to check out, but he wants to check out on his own terms. So he lays out what they're going to do that day before he deletes himself. They're going to end it all with a glass of drugged up wine, and he's going to go to sleep and never wake up. Bill, of course, is resistant because his partner is there and he doesn't want him to go. But they carry out their day the way that Frank insisted they do it. And they have their dinner, they have the wine, and then Bill takes Frank up to his bed and lays him out to wait for the drugged wine to take him. And then it cuts to Joel and Ellie walking up the path towards the house. They're approaching the compound. They've got the big steel gate there. They go through that. Bill, what's his face? Joel. He knows the code, so they get through it. And that was kind of a fun thing. They make a reference to that in a little bit. But he knows the code. They go in the compound, and as they're walking up towards the house, you see leaves scattered all over the street, which you never saw before. There's dead flowers in flower pots. The house is looking a little bit run down, and the door is unlocked. There's melted candles all over the house. There's dirt and dust everywhere. Joel calls out for them, but there's no answer. But there is some rotted meat and some unfinished dinner on the table. Well, it turns out that was the exact meal. That was just the remains of the meal they had when Bill took Frank upstairs. So the implication there, the very loud implication there, is that after Frank took himself out, Bill took himself out. So they both deleted themselves in the bedroom at the same time because apparently Bill couldn't go on without Frank, which was which was a much better ending than it was in the video game. In the video game, they had some quarrel and Frank took off, and you left a really shitty note. But they find an envelope with a car key in it on the table, and there's a self deletion note. This basically says Joel can take everything, and apparently he's okay. And obviously, Joel, I know it's you. That's reading this because if you didn't know the code to get in, you'd blow yourself up. So it was kind of a funny little post mortem humor from Bill. But Joel goes out to the garage. There's a truck, but there's no battery in the truck, which has been the problem since episode 1. They're looking for a dang battery for a truck, but there's battery making supplies. So Joel makes a battery, and then they go to pack supplies and get everything they possibly can for the road trip, including weapons. And they're down in the weapons room. And Ellie saying, she repeats her question. She always, can I have a gun? And Joel's still like, no. Says, but dude, there's a wall of them here. There's a giant wall of guns. Still no, it doesn't let her have them. Ellie, she was packing her stuff, but she sneaks a gun into her bag. They get in the truck, they start driving, and Linda Ronstadt's song plays as the credits roll, bringing episode 3 to an end. One notable thing about this episode, there seemed to be no F-bombs from Ellie that I noticed. There was several in episode 2. There didn't seem to be, there was a lot of other cursing from Ellie, but no F-bombs it seemed. But that brings us to the end of our spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited, one-take review of episode 3 of The Last of Us. And that was a great episode. I hope they keep making these episodes. Some people might not like it for the focus on Bill and Frank, but hey, that's your problem. I don't think it was anything to get upset about even if you do get upset about that sort of thing. That was a necessary backdrop. It provided a very, very cool insight into something that you didn't get to see if you were playing the game. I liked the episode, thought it was great. We'll have to see what happens next week. Join me next week for episode 4 of our spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited, one-take reviews. Until then, come and check out my live streams that I do every night, 5 days a week, usually, sometimes more. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with your friends. We'll talk to you later. Until we meet again, don't forget to enjoy your legal vices.